All right, and it looks like we are ready to begin. Coach, if you are.
I'm ready, yes.
All right, your first question will be from Tim Priester.
Okay.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Tim.
Update on McKinley and Lindsay, and then more of a big picture question. All of college football has had to deal with the restrictions of COVID, but do you think all that your program has had to deal with regarding protocols, et cetera, has ramped up your team's level of discipline more than normal?
McKinley has practiced as he has gone through the protocol relative to the concussion protocol, but he's been full go. We've just kept him out of contact. So he should get his full cleared status today. So that looks to be a certainty. Lindsay has gotten engaged this week. He will not play. We expect him to be ready for North Carolina. As it relates to the COVID, I think the early setback that we had forced us to examine procedures and protocols, certainly, but I do believe that it also was I want to be careful with the word wake-up call, but more so of a reminder that our players needed to be even more focused on masks and social distancing and the things that go along with handling this virus. And I think since that time, they have been, outstanding. We have taken, further precautions, as I mentioned many times, but I think those two things definitely occurred after that setback.
We'll go next to John Fineran.
Hi, Brian. Was wondering, as you look through across the country and stuff like that, you see all these games being postponed. How much does that play on you? And you worry that your next game might be postponed, and how do you handle going through this day to day?
We test, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So testing now has become part of, the coaching, daily habits, if you will, in terms of who's available and who's not available. I hope that I never get used to it, but it is part of what we do now in terms of, our daily check-ins, if you will, in terms of who's available. I do not come in every day wary or afraid or not thinking that we're going to play. We're just not at that point. We since our outbreak, we have never had a scenario where we have let our guard down in any fashion. I think what you're seeing is this spike was Halloween related in a large degree on college campuses. We've had one here. Our guys, knock on wood, have done well in testing this week. We had another test this morning, so we'll continue to monitor that. But I don't come in every day, worried that we're going to be shut down, because our guys have been extremely responsible. But the virus is the virus is, right? It's out there, and you just never know.
We'll go next to Eric Hansen.
Brian, the first thing is, I don't know if I just skipped over and didn't hear you say what the results of the Tuesday testing was, but if you haven't said that, could you share that? The second part of things is, when you get Lindsay back, we all saw flashes of him last year, what he can do for your offense. This late in the season, with everybody so established, is his value still the same? Does getting him back for those last 4 games add another dynamic piece to your offense potentially?
All I would say is, generally speaking, we're in a good place. I'll let Katie has been the one that has put out those numbers, and I don't want to change that routine that we've had, Eric, relative to announcing of numbers. But I will say that as we speak right now, we don't have anybody that's on our travel roster over the last few weeks that would not be traveling with us. Now we still have 2 more tests. We have our test that we took this morning, and then we have our Friday test. Braden Lenzy, when he's healthy, can still be a important part of what we're doing. His role will be one where we're going to have to accentuate him within the other established players. Ben obviously is going to continue to have a role in what we do. Joe Wilkinson, they've been able to find themselves a niche within our offense. But when Braden is healthy, we certainly can use his big play ability, and he can help our football team when he's healthy. There's no doubt, and we'll carve out a role that makes us a better football team with him on the field.
We'll go next to Tim O'Malley.
Coach, I just want to ask you about Zay Flowers. You've already gone against 2 of the more explosive, undersized receivers in the country this year. How does he kind of differentiate himself, and where does he challenge you on Saturday?
Well, he's explosive with the ball in his hands. They feature him in a number of different ways. So he's, if you look at Clemson, Clemson's got two or three really explosive players. He is their player. I mean, so he's separate. BC has other good players. He's a great player. So he separates himself from the pack that way. And BC knows that. So they're trying to utilize him in a manner that, he's touching the ball as many times as he can. So having said that, it allows you to focus on him in crucial situations and, create a game plan that really can focus on, putting guys in position that can leverage him. But he's competitive. I think that's what, one of the things that really stands out that we have found in watching him is he's an intense competitor and will fight for 4 quarters. So those are the 2 factors that are out there. One, that we know he's their go-to guy. But on the other hand, an intense competitor that will fight for everything.
We'll go next to George Bashura.
Good afternoon, Coach.
Good afternoon.
The one thing that you've always emphasized, especially over this season, is the crispness of practice. You said since the break, since coming out of the isolation and all the activities around the COVID, that it's been a general progression week to week in the crispness of practice. Last week, you guys were crisp in your play. How's the crispness of practice been this week preparing for Boston College?
Well, I don't know that I would categorize it as crisp. We were in a physical football game where, it took a lot out of us. So, it's about managing week to week. We didn't expend a lot of energy, the 2 weeks prior to, in a sense. Some of our numbers in terms of plays on defense were really low. They were much higher this week. So it was a different week, but it was focused. It was intentional. Our player load per minute was equal to last week's player load per minute. I pulled back on the volume, which I believe was the right thing to do, as we got ourselves back from a very physical game. And today we'll have our fastest practice today, because I think I was very prudent in the way that we went about our schedule on Tuesday and Wednesday.
We'll go next to Patrick Engel.
Hey, Brian, we saw a few times on Saturday where Isaiah Foskey dropped into coverage and seemingly with overall success. What about him do you like as a guy who can drop in some of those short areas and be effective there?
Yeah, well, when you're talking about, zone dropping, a guy that's 6'5", length, but he's got, he's very fluid. He can flip his hips. I mean, he was in great coverage when DJ rolled to his right and made an incredible throw. It was one of the more incredible throws that he made on the night. So just his length and size to be able to do that, gives you a great advantage. And when you're zone dropping him, it gives you a lot of different options as to who that add-on is. And that's why we like it, because you can add on now a Kyle Hamilton, you can add on Jeremiah Owusu, you can add on Bo Bauer as your fourth guy as you drop a guy like Foskey out. So it just gives you a lot of flexibility. Now, we're not going to make a living dropping him out because he's a darn good pass rusher too. So, but his ability to work in space and give us ultimate flexibility into where that extra player is coming from is what he gives us. And that's a great thing to have.
We'll go next to Lou Emoji.
Good afternoon, Coach.
Good afternoon, Lou.
Earlier in the week, I kind of joked that the over-under for the number of times with the David Gordon replay will be about 50. Do you even bring up 93 and the events that happened after beating number one? I know Liam Eichenberg said yesterday he hadn't heard anything about it. Is it almost silly to bring something up when they weren't even born? Or is there still some kind of warnings issued about what can happen after beating number one?
Yeah. It's more about, where your mind is at and who you're playing. Like if we were playing a JV team, it wouldn't matter. That BC team that Notre Dame played, I think it was a nationally ranked team. It was a really good football team. And this is a really good football team you're playing. So it matters who you're playing. We're playing them in their red bandana game, which is their most sacred game, if you will. And there's certainly there's a lot to the BC Notre Dame game. So we talk about much more in terms of how we're preparing for a team that is a really good football team, and certainly that you're the number 2 team in the country. You have a target on your back, and that's really much more relevant than the historical significance of the game. And if they understand that, then you're going to get the preparation that you need so you're prepared to play at the level you need to play at.
We'll go next to Pete Sampson.
Brian, a couple of questions. One, I think one of the identities of this team has been the opponent is picking themselves up off the turf more in the fourth quarter than you guys are. I realize that's not a statistic, but I don't know if that's something you track or if that is a signal about the identity of the team. And the other question was, I was curious about the field goal attempt right before halftime, how you the risk reward of that. Do you ever practice defending what almost happened, and sort of how you process that play itself?
Yeah, the physicality piece is something that we talk about. We want to be part. We want that to be part of who we are and our identity. So again, in terms of how we actually register that, we put together a tape, especially on both sides of the ball, knockdown tape and we show it every Monday. So it is something that is replicated and we talk about week to week. As it relates to the field goal, if I had to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have kicked it. We felt like it was right on the edge of where he could make it. We practiced that. We practiced that in preseason camp, and we give it board work in terms of who's got what on our Thursday special teams. So I think in that instance, the risk reward, if I had to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have kicked it.
We'll go next to Bryan Driskell.
Coach, I just have a two-part question about your defensive line. You guys just played an extremely physical game on Saturday against Clemson. They played very hard. How's the health of that unit? And then number two, you've been really throwing 2-3 waves at teams every game. How has the depth you've had and the depth you've used each week prepared you guys to be fresh when you get to this tough November, December stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I mean, we played, I was looking at our sheet just the other day in terms of snaps on the defensive line, and it's been pretty good. For example, on Saturday, defensively, we played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We played 10 defensive linemen. That's pretty doggone good in terms of depth of plays. And so if we can keep up, with that kind of snap count, that's going to serve us really well. And we're talking about, Cross with 10 plays, we're talking about, Agufu with 10 plays. We're talking about the Adiomolas both with mid-20s, Lacey with a dozen. So that's pretty good depth for us if you're rolling out 10. And as I mentioned, the previous couple of weeks, because of ball control on offense, they weren't getting the kind of snaps. The maximum snaps for a Heinisch was like he got 29 against Georgia Tech. The week before, against Pittsburgh, he got 18. So we're in a pretty good place when it comes to snap count.
And we will wrap it up with Mark Skol.
Hey, Coach, earlier this week, Phil Dracovic said that he was debating switching positions just to get on the field if he stayed at Notre Dame. Was that something you ever talked with him about, and would it have been something you considered?
No, I mean, I never had the conversation with him. Look, Phil is a competitor, and he wanted to play. And so I'm sure he thought about, all the options that may have been available to him or what he had perceived to be available to him. But we never had a conversation about, hey, we're moving you to tight end, or we're thinking about moving you to tight end. And at the end of the day, we can, whatever the narratives are, he's a competitive kid that wanted to play, and he wasn't going to play this year in front of Ian Book. So, that's kind of the bottom line as it relates to where he was in our program. He was competitive. He was doing the things we asked him to do, but he wasn't going to start in front of Ian Book.
All right, and we will wrap it up there. Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And as a reminder to our media, we'll have Cameron Ekanayika joining us shortly.